Hello,
Hello,
everyone.
everyone.
So basically, yeah, I'm Mical Noelson. You know Borya already. Uh, we've we both, what was it, the second cohort we were in for VCA.
Yep.
Yeah, and we basically both I volunteered to do the end of uh, cohort show that time, and we got to know each other, and we built a pretty decent, like amazing actually relationship. Building like a lot of different environments on Arium for VCA, helping with all the cohorts since then. So 3, 4, and hopefully 5, right, Boya?
Yeah, I hope so.
and and yeah, and so today we were just going to go through like a little bit our experiences on both those things, a little bit some technical stuff on Blender, like how to get started on Blender and how to get started on Arium, and then how to like export things into Arium and then like build a space basically. The idea is that hopefully at the end, like even if you had no experience with either of them, then you'll feel confident enough to at least join in for the final show if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, and you can basically have some sort of like starting point. Yeah. Yeah, so where are we? I have a little help sheet that I'm gonna try and post in here, and it's a PDF of useful links. Um, and that's failed. Can you? I put that in our personal chat, didn't I, Boria?
Yeah, I think so. You can use the chat which is located on the right side um, of the voice
Yeah,
channel.
yeah. I'm just checking in there, and it's not done. Doesn't want to go in there for some reason. Let's have a look. Upload a file. Let's stop. Aha, maybe that's what it is. And this is a file basically with just a couple of useful links of Blender. Number one, the site where to download it, and then you have also uh, some other useful links like HDR backgrounds and textures and this type of thing. But I can't find a way to get let's have a look and drop it in there. And
I just
hopefully this
sent
should
it. I
work.
think it should be
Oh
sent
yeah.
already.
Oh great. Oh cool. Yeah. So you can go to the first link on Blender there. That's blender.org. That'll open up. You can go to downloads on that's the front page of blender.org. Basically, Blender is like a open source, free to use, eternally free to use. It will never be a private 3D program, and you can do all sorts of different things with it. You can make films, videos. You can edit with it. You can use it as a digital sculpting tool. You can do hard stuff modeling, which is like making, like cars and planes and buildings and stuff. Um, yeah, you can even do things like compositing and everything as well, which is pretty fun. But today we're just going to go through like the absolute basics of getting started, just navigation. But so yeah, if you want, you can go to download, and then you have different ones. You can Mac, Windows, and Linux and Steam. I think are the ones that basically all the things that people use. Yeah. The other links are there's some YouTube channels there which I found when I was getting to know Blender, which I found extremely useful. The first one there is Grant Abbott videos, and he basically, if you're doing anything from like kind of small modeling, like say for computer games or anything that's going into a game engine, it's like brilliant. Like you can make the model inside Blender, and he shows different ways to export it, different ways to optimize it, and yeah, it's extremely useful. He has playlists on everything. The second one, Ducky Videos. He deals more with things like simulations and like kind of more abstract kind of things, like making video loops and this kind of thing is pretty interesting. Southern Shoddy, he's like does a lot of Blender tips, and also he makes these really cute small animations. It's really a lot of fun actually. And Ian Herbert is extremely cool. It's like it's a guy. He makes his own like short films, and he just shows like really cool kind of like hacky ways to do things really easily. You know, like um, tracking the scene and doing different kind of simulations inside of a scene, and yeah, just really it makes everything like look. It looks really complicated when you're actually seeing the finished product, and then you see how he's making it. He does these really like fun short videos, and then once you do it yourself, you feel like a genius afterwards, you know. And speaking about that, then you have Blender Guru, who he when he goes around with his tutorials, he likes to get you navigated inside of the Blender space, and you'll end up using a lot of things that maybe you don't understand straight away. But through those steps, he ends up giving you a very good orientation of Blender. You usually end up with like some sort of finished product at the end, like usually like a photorealistic scene that you can render. And yeah, he's a bit of a strange guy, but he makes some really cool videos. Yeah. So that's that with that. Should we get started then? So firstly, I'm going to go on to screencast keys, make sure that's on so you can see the keys. Yeah. Can you see those? Then you can see the buttons I'm pressing if I'm using any shortcuts. Yeah, 3D animation, the 3D programs, basically the idea is like you have coordinates in space and it makes a 3D object. So say let's like just put that into, I'm tabbing there, going into edit mode. This thing here, I'm just gonna press G and move it around. That's called a vertex. Yeah. And that's basically a coordinate in the 3D space. You have Y, X, and Z. So if you add all those together, you basically get a 3D model. You know, so it's Y, X, and Z. If you have all those coordinates, you can find out anything where something is. So if you put three things together, three of these vertices together, Y, X, and Z, then you end up, you can get basically a triangle. You know, if you add those together, you get a triangle. Add four, then it's a square. And that's basically the basics of 3D modeling. With a square, then you have something that's called a polygon, basically. That there. And those things together all make what you would call a mesh. And then when you go out, you can see it looks like a 3D object. With this, let's have a look. On Blender, you have many different types of windows. Here you have the layout function, which is basically the whole scene, everything together. And you can see you have up here, you have your camera here. And so press O, and then you got the camera view. And on your numpad, you can go to like different views. There's one that's what's the word? Author, I forget. Or you know the word like author something view, where it's like it's not exactly perspective. That's the one.
What was it?
Orthographic, yeah.
Orthographic, yeah.
Orthographic. It means that you can do everything like and work out the measurements very easily rather than with the perspective. And then you have like the different on the numpad. You have like 1, 3, and 7. Those are all the different sides of the cube. It's very easy to get to. And yeah, 0 would be the camera. And then say if I want to go into the cube here, you can see it selected the cube and selected the light. So these three things all together, that's basically our scene. So you have the object that you have in the scene, then you have the lighting of the scene. You see that's the way that that's lit up there. And then you have the thing that's going to actually record all of this. And if I go to render, I can render image, and I get the object, the lighting, and from the camera's perspective. Today, we won't really be needing the camera because we're not going to be use a camera. For instance, like one thing when I first started off with Blender, I got really confused about was what should I learn inside Blender for my needs? And I wasn't really sure what my needs were at the time because I just wanted to actually learn 3D. But the more I went along, like the more I found out that I like to make 3D sculptures. So there's no real need to have a camera inside the 3D sculptures if I was making like kind of like digital photography or like like 3D renders. Then a lot of my concerns would be about like learning about lighting, camera positions, this type of thing inside the scene, so that when I'm rendering it. Um, but I'm more interested in exporting things. Like say, like you have something called a GLB. I don't know if everyone knows about it. That's kind of a VR, AR ready object, which basically has the information of the object. It's animation and also its materials, and you can export that, and it can work in other different types of programs, for instance, like Unreal or Unity or any of this type of thing, or basically anything that you're using with VR, AR, and you can put an asset into different spaces. So when you're buying a 3D objects on different platforms, for instance, like Super Rare or Hikek or whatever, like then you're buying like a GLB object, which you can quite easily export it. So you could export that as GLB by going to File, um, Export, and then you have the different types here. FBX is really useful for if you're moving into different platforms. Say if I was using something like Substance Painter, which is a really, really good a painting program and texturing program, then I would do something called like unwrapping the UV map, which I'll explain a little bit in a minute. I would turn it into an FBX, and then I would export it, and then a program like Substance Painter that could read it, and you can go on and work it back on it. Then you can save it there, and then you could export it back into Blender, or you could make the textures there and then export the textures back onto Blender. Once I'd done that, and I was very happy with the object that I'd made, and then I would use this one here, the GLB, and you go to, you can see include selected objects. So I'd select the objects, and then if I wanted to, if it was like a really heavy object, then maybe I want to put some compression on it. And if there was an animation, then I would tick the animation boxes. You see there, you can have the materials automatic. The mesh apply modifiers. You can in Blender you can put a lot of different types of modifiers on your object, so that it's what would you call it? You basically have the object as it is, and then with the modifiers they do a lot of different things. But if you take those away, you still have the original object. And when you want to export something that you put a lot of modifiers on inside Blender, then you would press apply modifiers, and then all those things would be baked into the object when you export it. And you can simply export it, and then you have a GLB that you can post on an NFT site and make millions of euros and go to the moon and all that kind of stuff with it. Right, but that's not where. Yeah, it is a decent editing suite. Yeah, it can do like Blender is like so like multifunctional. It's amazing. Yeah. So yeah, there we have the object, and then if you go to modeling, then with the 1, 2, and 3 keys, is it lost the screencast or is that not working? Oh, that's weird. 1, 2, and 3. So 1 is the vertice here. 2 would be manipulating the lines. Yeah. And 3 would be manipulating a whole face. And you'd call that a face. Sorry, you call that a vert. Call that an edge. And you call that a face. Yeah, and so you can do all sorts of different things in edit mode. Like, for example, G is like moving it, and then you can also move it along the axis here, which is pressing Z there, or the Y axis, or the X axis. So it's locked in. And so you can move all this stuff around in edit mode. Let's say like move that here, move that here. And then you can also do something like pressing 3, and you can press E and extrude. And now you've got different types of new geometry being made. And you can even do things like select, say if you press shift, then you can select more than one face. And this is probably not going to work actually because that's in a weird place. Get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that by pressing X and vertices. Nope, I'm going to go back on that. X faces, and then just left with a little hole there. If I press 2, I can put all those and shift to select. Then if I press F, then it makes a face, and then you now have back to a solid object. And then if I go to 3 again and I press all 3 of these with the shift, then if I press extrude again, then I have an moving larger object. I can press S, which would scale everything in, scale everything out. You can also, after you press S, you can also scale across the different coordinates. So that's Y, X, or Z, which actually would flatten it out, actually, which is great. Let's do that again, and then press S. And then what is it for a loop? Okay. No. Okay, so that's basically the basics of how to edit and model, and this is what you call hard surface modeling. Now, this object is obviously not symmetrical, but I gave you a little cheat sheet there. So where are we? We have different types of add-ons you can put into Blender. Blender basically comes out like a very basic, so that you can add the things when you want. Then if you go to edit, you can go to preferences, and then you can see lots and lots of different. You got all different ways you can mess around with Blender. You have add-ons here, and these are lots and lots of different things that people have made. Sometimes it's like the Blender Foundation has made them. Sometimes other people have made them, and then the Blender Foundation has said, "Oh, they're good enough to include in the Blender package." So you have things like this, which is you can make little trees. Where are we? You can get one which is like gives you extra objects. Just come up later. That's an interesting one. But in this case, I want to look for one called mirror. So let's type it. You can also search here. So mirror. And you got auto mirror there. I've already clicked it, but then if you, it's usually off and you press that on, you can go to your press N and it opens up this little bar here, and I go down to edit, close those up. Where is it? Oh, there you go, right at the bottom. If I press on auto mirror, then it automatically has put a mirror in there. So that means that the object is now symmetrical across the X axis here. I can change it to the Y axis if I wanted, I think. Maybe you have to actually like put it, yeah. So now I have on 2 axes. So if I wanted to move that around there, it would move the complete symmetry. So if you look at it there, then you basically made a kind of symmetrical object. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. So Borya, am I making any sense right now?
In fact, I almost feel like I'm seeing some of the new buildings that are emerging here in my neighborhood, um, I see how the architects might have gotten to the shapes that they've gotten into, even though yours is immensely better and more complicated than what they do. But yeah, if I can see a bunch of architects here in my country just playing around with Blender and then pitching their projects
Oh,
as, wow, this is this new amazing shape. And yeah,
let's hope it's a little bit more complex than that. You know, for instance, having like a fully working electricity and plumbing and everything. But yeah, I know what you mean. Okay, so where was I? But I mean, am I making sense as I'm going along? Because I'm just kind of, I, when you're talking to yourself, it kind of gets a little bit, yeah, you feel like you're in your own little world here. So I'm just going to extend that out across the, uh, I guess that's the Y or the X axis, who knows? And by the way, I'm just kind of riffing here. I'm not really making anything that I was planning on making a building before, but that didn't work out. So I'm just gonna make something as I'm going along, just to explain how things work. Okay, G1. Let's move that down a little bit.
Hey, Michael, I'm kind of following along in Blender, and I'm not able to get the mirror effect applied when I'm like just trying to. Well, I can't get these edits mirrored. Can you tell me how you got that?
Okay, sure. You're in modeling?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you go into the? Did you activate the mirror, auto mirror?
Yeah. So I have auto mirror, and I was able to get my original shape mirrored, but I can't do the real time edits where it's being mirrored as I move things.
Can you see? So if you press 1 for a second,
Okay.
do you see like the vertices on it?
Yes.
Okay, so if you just click one vertice, yeah,
Uh-huh.
you have one selected, and if you press G and you move it around,
Yes.
how does
But
that work?
it's only doing it on one side of the axis.
Oh, and you can't see it moving on the other side.
Correct. Even
So,
though my auto mirror is definitely on.
so say when I'm moving that, you're not getting a symmetrical thing that's not moving anywhere. This part.
Correct.
That's weird. I don't, I do not know what the answer is there, to be honest. Maybe why was editable apply mirror toggle? Yeah, I'm not sure why that would be. Like, I've never had that problem before.
Super strange. It's all right. Maybe I'll just try resetting, like
Yeah,
taking it back a couple of edits. Thanks anyway.
yeah. Sorry about that, but I think that's sometimes things are buggy, and usually what I do is either that's the perfect thing to say actually. Every program crashes. Blender's pretty stable at the moment. Like when you're downloading with Blender, you can get like nightly builds, which are the things which are like the most experimental. You can get lots of different new things in it, but then you can get like the latest release, which is more stable. But then you can also get something called the long-term release, and the long-term release is like the most stable out of all of them. But things do crash. Sometimes you have a problem with your RAM in your computer, or like for instance, Daniel having this bug right now. And maybe the Blender is going to crash. So always remember, go here, file, save, save as, pick how you would choose the file. Always save as you're going along, and that goes for the same with any kind of program you're using. But it's always worth saying because, in fact, I haven't done that. So let's save. Go to desktop. I'm gonna save it under the. I'm gonna call it Arium gallery wall, and it's just gonna save as a Blender file there. And I want to open it. It should be there. Yeah, you can see that. And there's a little. The thumbnail would be basically how the camera is viewing the object at that time. So if we go out, you can see that the camera is viewing that space. So if we move it back, yeah, well, maybe that's a better view. Oh, something like that. But yeah, that would be how the file is saved by the camera view. Yeah, see, I'm just sure what that problem was, to be honest. Let's have a look. Okay, where are we? Oh, pressing the wrong button. Yeah, so yeah, so I'm just doing all this like with mirroring it with two different axes. I usually do it with one axis, but I just kind of carried on from where I was. And I'm just gonna kind of what I'm gonna do here. I'm just gonna build like a couple of gallery walls, let's say. Yeah, okay, there you go. So you can imagine. So I'm gonna press A. A selects everything. If I want to make it bigger, I'm gonna scale it, and I'm gonna scale it on the Z-axis, where I can scale the whole thing. Oh, aha, that's interesting. Because I have everything mirrored, I'm gonna apply the mirror now. Let's say modifier. Okay, so the mirror modifier. Let's go take a chance to go into the modifiers here. What the mirror has done is made these two modifiers here. So I can go into out of edit mode, and then I can go and I can apply these things. And the order that the modifiers are in, the top one is the most dominant one, and everyone below it is the one. It's like a hierarchy of modifiers. So I think that I should apply this one first, and then apply that one, and then if you go into edit mode, you should see the whole geometry there. So now, if I want to move that around, it's no longer. Oh, I did something weird there, didn't I? That's wrong. Yeah, I've really messed up the geometry there. Let's try that. Okay, that's all right. Don't worry about it. So say if I want to make some sort of material on this object, say we're going to pretend that this is like 4 gallery walls. If you want to make some sort of material on this object, here's sculpting. Here's a UV editor. You go into the UV edit, and one way to do it, I have a couple of hold on a second. I actually have a drive file, and I've got a couple of textures there. And I'm going to share it, restricted, anyone with a link, copy link. And that should have some textures in it. It has bricks, concrete wall, pattern, paving stone. A few different textures that you can apply to your model as you see fit, basically. So if we go to UV editing, and so the idea of UV editing, the idea of a UV map is, I'm just going to put an example here. I'm going to make a mesh. I'm going to make a cube. Yeah. And this is basically, the idea is, like make that bit. Gee, why is that linked together? What have I done? Ah, I know what I've done. If you go into, if you're printing something and you're printing, say, like a milk carton or something, the way they print it obviously is they print. Why is that together? I don't know what I've done there. Ah, no. That's really odd. Selected them both together. I don't know why I've done. That's what I've done. Borya, can you work out why the hell that this object is stuck with the other one?
Honestly, no idea. You don't seem to be doing anything wrong with it.
Yeah, this is super weird, huh?
Hmm. What I would usually do in these instances is I would save, close, and reopen the model. I don't know, it's just my years of customer support and tech support experience just saying close and open.
Make another one, and then I'm gonna move it, and it's all moving together.
That's so peculiar.
Oh, there you go. I think I had O on which when you press O, and it was using the influence around it. Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah. Gonna scale that up a second. And yeah, so back to UV. The idea behind UV. A UV map is basically mapping a 3D object in a 2D space. So if you want to do that, basically you have to turn the 3D object into a flat object. And if you go into UV editing here, you can already see it. See, this is a 3D object. It's a cube, and the UV map is basically cut down the line so that you basically flattened out the cube together. And if you want to add a texture to this, go to shading, and new. You can see here, principled BSDF. This is basically a shader that can do a lot of things. You have the base color. You have basically if the idea behind PBR materials is it's basically like rendered like something rendered like it's in real life. So you have a basic color, then you have things like metallic, with some things like metallic or not. You have something if it's glossy or if it's really rough. If something has an emission like a light bulb, you see it's like you can change the color there. That's basically it emanating its own light. But so you can make materials just out of this one shader here, and this is basically like a node of like how would you say? This is basically giving a description of how the object should look. Or if you go into edit preferences, type in node. If you go to node wrangler and you click that on, then you can actually press onto the principled shader, press Control Shift and T, and then that will bring up all your assets. And say you want to make this one. Let's give it like a snazzy metal tiles. So you select all of these, and then you go down to here, principled texture setup, and it will organize the whole setup for you. Ambient occlusion is not going in. The base color goes in the base color, the metallic goes to the metallic, and all these things here are textures giving information about how the object should look and how they work in the 3D space. So let's see if we can get a light shining on that. Where are you, light? You're up there. Okay, it's going to get a different light. Go to add, Shift A basically brings up the add button menu, and I'm going to go down to lights. I'm going to pick a point light. And where are you? Over here. Okay, so it's not like the sun's pretty bright, but the point lights are pretty dull at the moment until this says only 10 watts. You can see 10 watts of power. See the sun over here, that would be 1,000 watts of power. So that's a lot brighter, obviously, than this one here. But you can do things with the light. You can increase the power, and you slowly start to see it interacting with the object now. You can see that. And then you can start to see actually the material that the light has. Well, let's make the radius a little bit bigger, and then you can see that the material is like a little bit glossy here, a little bit metallic here, and different colors, and it's raised a little bit as well. You can also do things with the light. You can change the color of the light so you can get more interesting scenes. A lot of scenes are made with what you call like 3-point lighting, which is a main light, a side light, which is like secondary light, which is a little bit lower in a different position, and then a rim light, which is actually something which lights just off from the back, which kind of makes everything. That's kind of what people use in photography a lot. So look, so I'm going to Shift D to duplicate that, bring it here. I'm going to change the color a little bit, and then one more. It's up here. That one bit more powerful. So white light here. Yeah, then you can get an idea of like you can see the way the light is interacting with the object. Yeah, so basically that's how you apply a texture to an object, is that you first have to make sure it has a UV map, and then you can see this is how the texture is interacting with the UV map across it. So if we go, say, for instance, into, I'm going to change this mode to, this is a rendering mode up here. This is a regular modeling mode. This is the, it shows the lighting within the kind of artificial light, so you can kind of get an idea about what's going on. But this is what the final scene would look like. And you can also go to there and you see everything as a see-through objects is very helpful when you're modeling. But right now, I want to see how changing the UV inside here changes the way that it looks on the object itself. So if I move just that one here, you can see how it's moving the map there. And so if I wanted to make a weirder shape, I could bunch them in or whatever like that. Or if I think that these circles are actually too big, I can press A, select the whole of the UV map, and press S to scale it. And I can basically make the map a lot bigger than the texture. And then you can see everything's like a lot smaller, and maybe that's the desired approach you were looking for. You can bring it down again, and you have these wonderful big circles. They're not aligned there because they're not aligned on the map, because these are different sizes here. That this line basically here and this line are the same line going across here. And so when they're together, and if these sides aren't matching up, that's the reason why you get that. So if it was something which was actually symmetrical pattern, they would actually match up perfectly. You can also spend a bit of time inside this space moving everything around to make everything match up. But I'm not going to do that here because this has already been 50 minutes so far, and we haven't even gotten to Arium. So, are you there, Borya?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool. So do you have anything to say so far about what we're up to here?
I'm just so happy that we have you as the Blender builder. You're just so efficient with everything.
Well, thank you for the compliment. I'm not really sure if it's true, but yeah, cool. So we're going to go into we're going to try and UV map this because we made this object and it doesn't have a UV map. It's just select everything. It's just this wonky thing here because the square, the cube will start off with like a simple UV map, but then when you're adding stuff to it, then it gets confused and it's a big mess. So you can do two things. You can either select everything there. As you can see, it makes it appear on the map there. You can select everything, and then you can go to UV up here, and then you have lots of different options for UVs. You can unwrap it. Well, that's not really going to work right now. I'll explain in a second. Or you can go into the Smart UV Project, and Blender will basically like kind of work out the best way it sees to unwrap this model. And it can work for a lot of things. It can work, for instance, if you're going to do a lot of texture painting afterwards, because then everything kind of maps up afterwards. If you're using textures, it will end up everything looking a bit wonky. But you can use it. So I'm just going to Smart UV Project and then say put the island margin just a little bit. The island margin, the islands will basically be like the different sections that that it's going to be cutting out to make it flat. And I just put an island margin one that didn't work of 1. Let's make it there. That would just leave a little space in between the islands. So if I press OK, and then you can see right now, this is now flattened out onto a surface. So that means it can be ready for a texture. So let's go into the textures and shading. I'm going to change that to the easier view. Again, I'm going to press, I'm going to select the shader here, press Control Shift and T. And this time I'm going to pick, let's see if the bricks works. It's going to look bloody crazy. Maybe I'll go for the concrete. Select that. And yeah, it's a big, like, big mess. So let's see if we can change that a little bit. Gonna change which one I can see up here to the brick texture. So maybe that works a little bit. I'm going to change that into edit mode. And I'm gonna see if I can select all of those and actually, what is going on there? Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. I'm in texture painting, not UV editing. Why? Okay, again, so select all. See how this looks if I rotate everything. And you can rotate slowly by pressing Shift. You can rotate in like more kind of geometric steps by pressing Control. And I'm just going to leave it there. Around like that. And then I'm just going to leave it like that. And then say the bricks are too big. If I want this to be a big wall, then the scale of the bricks doesn't make any sense. So I'm just going to press S. And I'm going to scale it out like that. And say, oh, yeah, that's my brick wall. Yay. So obviously, everything in real life, like this is really janky at the moment, but I'm gonna leave it the way it is. Obviously, in real life, everything doesn't have completely sharp edges. So you can also do something like if you press Control B, that will give you the bevel tool, and that will put basically, if everything's selected, then it will put like a slight curve to subdivide the corners to make it slightly curved. So I'm just going to Control B. And you see that, the way it's moving there? Well, it's doing it on a lot of things there. Okay, I understand why. I'm not going to do that now because I've already UV mapped it, don't I? Okay, boy, I think I'm just going to leave it like this for the moment. I'm going to put this
It looks
horrible.
very English.
Yeah. It looks like it's like something from terrace houses in Manchester or something. Yeah. So shall we try and just export this into Arium and move on from there, shall we?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah.
I hope to God my computer doesn't crash.
Okay. So this is basically a not very good model of a load of walls put together. But I'm more focusing on like just trying to get like the basic ideas of things rather than actually making anything interesting in space. I can't talk and model at the same time, unfortunately. So I'm going to go to, let's say, layers, and I'm just going to select this one object. I'm going to go to the files, going to export it as a GLB. Yeah, Arium gallery wall, wonderful. I'm going to go include selected objects, and the data I want to compress it. It doesn't have any other lighting or anything like that I want to keep. So I'm just going to drop it into the assets folder here, and that should be that. And let's have a look to see if saved. Okay, let's have a look. And then I think I'm gonna bring it over to you, Boria, for the next step. Is that okay? You ready for
Yep,
that?
yep. Go for it. So let's see. Just a moment. Let me download that thing.
What I
Oh,
can do is I'm gonna drop this
mm-hmm.
into the texture file that I saved at the class that I shared with the class. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so at the moment the properties, this is 17 megabits
Oh,
altogether.
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm going
It
to
could be a,
drop. So I'm going to drop the space where we're going to be building in. It's in the chat. You can see it. Never mind the name of it. Just go ahead and log in if your systems can handle it. And
dream scene mode. Mm-hmm.
Michael, would you want me to load the model?
Right now,
Or
yeah, I'm just.
yeah.
Uh, oh, actually, I can drop it in there. I think. I
Okay,
can.
let's see if my
Let's have a look.
system
See
is
if I
going
can
to.
get. Let's see if I can get into the edit mode and home. Would you like to take over the stream?
Yep. Let's see if it's going to work though. Can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, I see people.
Woohoo!
Okay.
Okay.
So I am going to. Can you still see my screen? Maybe it's better if you. It's going to take like another minute before the Arium gallery wall is ready to on that file, but I can also upload it now. Let's have a look.
Mind you, you might have to switch off your. Oh, just a second. Yeah, just so you know, guys, there might be some audio coming from your microphones. Arium Spaces actually picks up your microphone, and you're able. And we are actually able to hear it if you're not muted, and it's very fun. It's a lot of fun actually. If we speak to each other over here, I can come closer. Like for instance, I'm close to Cesar right now, and if he was speaking and if I was speaking in the platform, we would be able to hear each other. However, uh, Java over there might not be able to hear us very well because he's far away, which is something that mimics reality very well. Now I can see that my screen is flickering a lot. My shared screen is flickering quite a lot. Um, but what can we do about it? My system is that's how it is. So yeah, I hope it's not too bad. Is it breaking up too bad, guys? Hmm. Can someone say something so I can make sure that we're able to hear each other? Oh,
I can hear
lovely.
you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Okay, so this is what Arium Spaces looks like. So the actual sky that we see right now was made by Michael for the third cohort space, and he can go into details on how to create HDRI environments, which is so exciting to me. Um, but in the same time, if you wish, you could actually switch them out. There are skyboxes that you can switch around to. Um, yeah. Oh God, my system is so bad.
System is so bad.
Oh,
You're using it.
Oh,
Or is it?
hey, I'm just understanding that I'm not able to hear some things that are happening, but I hope that I will be able to. If you guys are speaking, just so you know, I'm not able to hear you. So yeah, we can. Let's see what we can do. So Arium already comes with a few presets of skies and um, environments that you can choose from. You can even switch off that grid that you're seeing on the bottom. It's just so that it's visible for us. As you can see, you can change those up a little bit. I really enjoyed this one. Many people do. I guess all of us like space. So let's see now. I would love it if we were able to load that object in. Let's see. Hmm. Oh, there it is. Michael, did you load it? Hi, Helio. Just so you know, we can actually see you over there. That's something that's really awesome in Arium, that you can switch on your webcam and you can hear people. And I've been using Arium Spaces for my instead of Zoom meetings. And something that's happening right now is, as you can see, we can pass through the walls. And something that can be done in that regard is we can change the matter settings. Uh, wait, the physics settings. So if we say that this object is collidable, over here, every model has the options to edit this. So if we say that this object is collidable, it doesn't allow us to move anymore around it. You see, I'm only going to be stuck in this brick space. And that's something that you would like to do whenever you wish to not have people go out of a space. So that's obvious. And if I switch off the collidability of this object, as you can see, we can move around it again, and that's pretty cool. That's that. So that's depending on what you would like to do. And something else that you can do is this Arium actually has these internal edits. So we can actually start playing around a little bit with this model. So we can make it uh, larger or taller or shorter or anything that we would like to do. Very often I would make a very basic model in Blender because I'm not very good at building in Blender. And I would afterwards just um, I would just play around with it here inside Arium, which is something that it allows. So I want to point your attention over here, down here. These are the two views that you can have. So this view that we are currently having is oh, look at what we did here. Cool. That's exciting. Uh, so um, the other view that we can have is orbit, which is, so in that case, we can actually go around and do this, and we can look more a little bit as if we're in one of the regular 3D environments, which is also fine. It would depend on what you need. Sometimes you would need to look from above so that you're able to actually check out how the space is looking. And other times you would need to just view this as is so that you are able to understand what's happening, just to feel the actual feeling of the object. Now I'm guessing that my microphone might be muted, or my hearing abilities might be muted because I'm not able to hear you. Let me see. Michael, can you do a quick sound testing? Yeah, I see that you're speaking and I'm not hearing you speak. Such a fun thing. Let me see. Can you try again? Hmm. Can you hear me, guys? Yeah, you guys seem to be able to hear me, but I can't seem to hear you. That's such a fun technical glitch that we're getting over here. Okay, let's try to hear each other from here. Now that I'm outside of the metaverse, is it possible that I can hear you on this end? Hmm.
It's already been an hour. Did
Hey guys.
has this been helpful, like in the sense of navigating Blender so far? I don't know how many of you actually have used it before. I imagine some of you have used a lot of 3D programs before. But yeah, I didn't want to make anything like a crazy. I just wanted to kind of go through as many basic things that you kind of need to be able to go on to to the Arium space afterwards. Oh, well, thank you.
Mical, it was great to be able to get a rehearsal of the basic functions for those of us who've not actually used the software before but have been curious about it. It was great. Thank you.
Oh, cool. Thanks, man. Yeah, because last time it was the three of us, we were Bolt as well, and I think we assumed too much that other people had really used it before, and we kind of were going through some complicated things and not actually really explaining just the actual basics. So it can be a little bit much for people who've already used the platforms before, but I figure like, you know, it's a workshop for understanding 3D and Blender and Arium, so we might as well literally try and do the basic functions of having a way where you can start. Yeah, and I would definitely recommend looking through those videos, especially the Abbott Grant one, because Grant Abbott one, sorry, because he goes through a lot of things which are like the basics that you get a lot of good habits with, and if you're exporting stuff for other things, it's very useful. Oh, thank you. Have we lost Borya? Where are you, Borya?
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
I mean,
yes, we can hear you. Yeah, we've been able to hear you the whole time.
I'm so happy about that, but I was not able to hear you guys, but I just decided to completely um, log out and log back in. Follow your own advice when you're not sure. So log out and back in again, and it seems that now it's working. So
Yeah.
in regards to Blender, so shameless self-promotion over here, but this was the the easiest thing to reach. But you can use that to, as you can see, you can put artworks on the walls, and yeah, it's you can pretty much do anything with them. I'm I I usually start trying to mess things up in a way, like looking for bugs in the system. Um, like one of the bugs that I discovered was that if you create a huge frame of the piece over here, you can actually go into it and you can look at people and they are not going to be able to see you, you know? You're going to be inside the painting. But yeah, it's wildly specific stuff, which is not very good for a um, beginner's workshop. But anyways, so what you can do with this place is, as we just saw, you can import your GLB models and you can do all sorts of fun stuff with them. Um, let's see, I don't know if I have a good video available right now, but things that you can upload to Arium spaces very easily, you can see on the top left right now, they are, so this is an NFT, you can import an NFT, and who wants to drop an NFT in the chat so that we can import it? That would be lovely, and we always love doing this. Other things until I'm waiting for you guys to share a piece. You can also put an image as you saw before. You can also put a video, which, I don't know, do we have any kind of videos over here? Yeah, I'm just reaching the easiest stuff because this is what I've been using so far. So yeah, this is a video. So this video has a few options for it. So you can make it so that it can work whenever a person enters, it can play all the time. However, most of the times what we tend to do when we are building a Blender space, sorry, an Arium space, is we actually decide how far it should play. So it will only play when the viewer is looking at the video, and you can actually play around with the space within which the video is playable. And the reason why you would do that is so that you are able to preserve um, what's the word for Michael? What's the word I'm looking for? Bandwidth. Bandwidth. So if you presumably you have 20 videos in your space, and if all of them play together, they're just going to clash. First of all, if they have audio, they're going to clash, and also they're also going to break your space, and people with slower systems are not going to be able to log in, which is not very cool, right? So this is something that you would do. And something else that you can put in here is you can put music. So background audio and music, we're not going to do that at this point, but it is possible. You just import an MP4 file, MP3 file, and then you can also decide whether this plays spatially. So whether if a person goes near it, it can play, or whether it's global, and whenever a person enters the space, the volume keeps being the same throughout the entire space. You can add a placard if you have something to say that you need said in a way. Yeah, like something like this. You could change the style of it if you wish. I'm looking for the weirdest one. Yeah, let's say this ridiculous one.
Hey, Borya,
Yeah.
after this, if we have time, should we quickly go through like a couple of the other builds we made after?
Yeah, I would say so because it would be very different to see what you're able to do with
Mhm.
this.
Yeah. At the moment, I'm trying to bake the lighting onto that object. So
Oh, nice.
I'll see. I'm doing it off stream so that I'll see if it works first.
So something else that you can do is we already saw that you can add a model over here. The basic is as usual is the monkey head. And the reason why it's black right now is because we don't have any lights on this space, which you can add very easily from here. And let's say that this is our light. Now this changing of the modes of viewing is going to come very handy when you need to um, when your system allows you to change it.
What have you done to my model? It's completely weird and stretched. You've ruined the texture. Shame on you.
So yeah, well, you know I do these things, right? Remember how
Yeah.
like building a metaverse, one of the things that's most fun for me is trying to break stuff. You know, just trying to
Yeah.
see where it doesn't work and trying to explain why it doesn't work. Because every time you invite someone in, people will inevitably go and find these spaces.
Hmm. Yeah.
So you would like to be able to sort of know at least where they are, because you can actually make them into a game, you know.
Yeah,
So
that's what I did with the space where, the one I asked you to have a look through first, like when I made I think it's for Neo Techno Optimism
hmm
digital show I did. Um, I asked you to roam around in it, and then you found that you could drop down that hole, and then I made that little hole that you drop down into like an area where you can read the essay on my work. So it was,
yeah, and that was so useful.
yeah. So it's fun to. Yeah, you're completely right. It's really fun to like find out how you can break a space and actually take advantage of that as well. And
So
your
as we
space like full of those things, right? There are little places you can go to and find out stuff and little secrets.
yeah, actually it's a lot of fun if you go to my spaces. I actually place invisible portals here and there, so you just end up going through one of them randomly, and you end up being at a completely different place. So yeah, I just like to play around with it. We don't have to comply to regular physics in the
No.
metaverse, and actually, I don't know if it's possible. This is a specific thing that you get to have. Uh, so it's something that gets added to your space if you ask the guys for them, but this one doesn't have it yet. But you can actually ask the Arium guys to switch on the options for changing the physics settings. So you can jump higher or the gravity changes, and you can feel like if you jump, you kind of fly around. But since this is something that costs a lot of bandwidth to your system, they haven't made it automatically part of every space. But if you ask them, they automatically switch it on. By the way, in regards to the fact that we are working in Arium, I want to share with you that we have this over here, this special little list with invite codes for everyone. I'm going to share that in our chat. This is something that Aidan, who is one of the creators of Arium, sent specifically for us. And his only request is that when you use one of the invite codes, just write your name or just say used on the left side, so that you know, there is no mix-ups of which invite code is used. I probably should have started with this. You,
It's
yeah,
probably a good place to start. Yeah, that's
but
okay.
it's an incredibly useful tool, by the way. And once you get to work with it, even if you don't create exhibitions with it, even if you um, just use it for a regular space for yourself, um, it's it's very useful when you want to do some kind of group meetings. So as I mentioned, you can switch on your webcams on the little squares that we have here. You can switch the webcams on and you can switch on the microphones for yourself, and it becomes really good as an experience. Remember what Kirk, Untitled XYZ, showed us? He showed us that you can actually share a web page and you can start broadcasting
Hmm.
things, and
Yeah, it's amazing.
it was really awesome. And I honestly believe that this is such a better way to do like group meetings or project meetings or presentations in the virtual space. They're so much better than just sitting around a Zoom call. Honestly, I somehow managed to not get into too many Zoom calls during the lockdown phase, but yeah, I still think that it's weird. So for me, the metaverse is much more natural way of meeting people virtually than any other way that's been imagined so far.
Yeah, it can be really cool.
And actually, there is something else I want to show you. Since this is a space that I own, I can actually place a little bit of a portal here. If you see this blue thing, and I can make it so that we can get transported to another one of my spaces or the ones that I have access to. So, wow. Where would you like us to go, Michael? Do you have any preferences? We have the Digital Roots NYC here. We have the LA Digital Roots. We have My Pieces of Garbage, which I have no idea how it looks like right now because I haven't played around with it for months.
We can go to the one that we built first. You know, when we got together.
Yeah, the
Like,
you
I mean, just yeah, because I mean that was like the first thing we did, right?
yeah, would you do you mean our auction space?
Yeah, yeah. Cohort 2.
Okay, so it's already oh, it's already here. So guys, everyone who's here, just go into the portal. You might have to come on this side. Sometimes it doesn't work both ways.
I always forget you always put in music in the space now. I forget about it.
Oh yeah, and we actually should be able to have some music in our space. So what we're going towards is our cohorts exhibition space. It was the first one that we worked together with Michael on, and it's really spectacular for me. I hope that it loads on my system. Now, 1 year ago, my computer was perfectly fine, and now for some reason it's already obsolete. But I guess that's how it works with
Suppo-
computers.
You're supposed to turn it off like in between the time. So,
Wait, what? To not be on the computer
yeah.
24/7? What do you mean?
You know what? I had an idea. Like, since we started off here, we can actually go through like the process of how the space starts. So like
Mm-hmm.
in terms of so here we are. This is a space that me and Boria and a couple other people, but mostly me and Boria made, including Lisa actually, who was like the project leader at the time, right?
Yeah, she was
And me,
amazing.
Boria, Lisa, and Mical spent a lot of time in this space, right? Making this, having weird like 4 o'clock in the morning chats here and there, like just looking at stuff and umming and ahhing about stuff. Um, so basically, how does it start? Like, so Mical has a kind of brief, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the theme for this one was uh,
Sort
what's the
of
name of that?
s-
Burning Man, right?
Burning Man. Yeah, some kind of a Burning
Yeah,
Man, but like digital Burning Man in a way,
yeah, yeah.
like
So we
space
made like
Burning
there
Man.
was like a mood board, right?
Yeah, we had a
So
mood
they
board
started off with like yeah,
and we had a plan, like what generally it should look like. So what usually happens is we do the residency spaces in a somewhat of a circular plan, so that all the artworks have kind of kind of an equal opportunity to shine, if you know what I mean. Um, and this was not different than that. This was actually when we established that it would be great to do it in circles. And then afterwards, I guess Michael just started playing around with things that he would associate with a desert party or desert Burning Man or space Burning Man or something like this. Would you like to
yeah.
share? Mhm.
But firstly, like they supply quite a few photographs and reference images. Like and I'm not sure if you did that on this one, but like you did it on a lot of ones afterwards, where you made the mood board and like you would write like a lot of different like inspirational kind of things we could look for. And one of them, there's a few things like one of them was there's a lot of different types of metal sculptures which seems to kind of glow in the evening and in the nighttime, and like there's a lot of wonderful dusk photographs, right? And there were these ones with this of these kind of like metal kind of flowers that would just had this kind of nice kind of LED kind of things coming off of them. So I thought that I would kind of interpret that the way I did here with you doing these kind of like very
Oops.
illuminescent kind of moving. What's up?
Oops.
What's wrong?
I went to
You-
my space. I guess I just went through one of the secret portals.
I lied. Okay, cool. And
Sorry,
yeah,
go
so
on.
and one of the other things was like because you see where the V is in the background, like the Michael wanted a stage so that you could have like a either talking from there or there would be like a live broadcast. And we actually one of the cohorts he DJ'd that he did a live performance actually, right? It wasn't just
Yeah,
DJing, it was Garrison Fortress. He
Garrison,
did a
yes.
live performance, which was cool. So we have the stage there, which is basically like a 3D model with another like the screen is a separate 3D model which is UV mapped to work with the uh, which you can how would you go to videos and you can project onto geometry. And so I made kind of like a screen shape, and you can project the video onto that geometry, and you can also stream from it as well. It's one of the
Hmm.
functions. Yeah, and apart from that, that was basically the idea was it to be like the brief was kind of like make it kind of a bit magical, have a kind of like a sunset or evening, and um, and then we had all these kind of like mood photographs that we could take advantage of, right? So, so yeah, that was basically it. Like, and then we kind of worked in the models, and then eventually, once everything kind of got established, then we made Lisa made a map of where all the artwork could go and like where things could be placed, and then we started to really like get to grips with where everything should be. Is that
Hmm.
right?
That's exactly right. That's kind of like the process of how things get built on Arium and how the team that decides to build it builds it. And sometimes the brief that Mical gives us is just a very vague, tentatively shaped thing. So it really is more about what the residents have a tendency to gravitate towards. So um, let's see if I can make another portal to the next space. Let's go to this place over here. And you can probably hear the music already. I don't know if you do, I can hear it. Oh, that's nice. I hadn't seen this. Oh, that's so cool. This is the VCA truck. That's so awesome. Oh my God. Michael,
Where are you? What are you doing? I don't got a clue what you're doing.
um, I'm over here underneath the biggest truck, on the side of the
Oh,
biggest truck, and there is a V that you've baked into the texture.
yeah, yeah, that's right.
That's amazing. I've never seen that before.
I know
Wow,
it's.
I love it.
I remember doing.
So let
Spent a
me,
long time.
guys, if you can come over to the truck on this side, you're going to see another portal, and I'm going to put this portal to the next cohort space. So that will be to the third cohort space.
Oh, you just made one now to walk into.
Yep,
Oh, great.
I'm
Look at
over
you
here.
moving on around. This is like the magic school bus.
So yeah, this is the space. Can you guys see where I'm going?
Okay, okay, I'm
Woo!
going in.
Oh, didn't work.
Oh, I ended up. Oh, something's happening.
Oh, yep, it's
Yeah.
working.
So basically, like, so I would say like when it gets when there's an announcement that like the show's gonna happen, people will be asked like who wants to be involved and everything, and you don't necessarily have to like be like 100% involved. You can just do like certain jobs and everything, but right at the beginning is always a good place to start, so you actually get to know what the people who are really gonna spend a lot of time working on it. That's when the kind of the mood board happens, the discussion happens about how we're going to go forward, and like how the jobs are going to be parceled out. So it could be that like you're really into modeling and you want to spend a lot of time in the space yourself. Like you want to do like big things. It could be that you get like handed a job. For instance, the last time a lot of the modeling was done by Touchdown Art, but she also worked with was it Victor? He did the sculpting of the space, and then Sound Art did the actual optimizing and modeling of it, and they used textures which were made by another artist, and so everyone had like little jobs, and at the end, like mostly in terms of uploading the art and curating. A lot of people want to do the curating, but it's really the last thing that happens because everyone's work is like being like rushed to the last moment to make. So it's not really like you're going into a gallery with all this work already um, that you've already seen and got used to, and taking your time to place everything. Because at that point, some people are literally just like it'll be like in the last day or so, people are late with their mints and late with their artwork. So everything is really kind of a little bit like the beginning of a theater play where everything's like just finished at the last moment. So it can be very hectic. It's not what a lot of people I would say expect in the beginning. You get a lot of people wanting to do that point, but it's actually like more hectic work than it is kind of walking around being a curator. Um, yeah, so I would say that if you're going to get involved, like find out maybe like what you could get involved with at the beginning, what you could help with, and yeah, don't let it get in the way of like the work that say if a lot of people are making their pieces at the time, so it gets very stressful. Um, but if it's something you really want to be involved with, like it's always best to start off at the beginning so you know what everyone's talking about. The other thing is that things do have to be optimized, So, for instance, there's a really big sculpture in here which has disappeared from my view.
I switched it off, by
Which
the way. The sculpture, I switched it off
ah,
for now
that's why.
because
Yeah,
it's one of
yeah,
those things
it's
that
got like
Michael said.
hundreds of thousands. Yeah, sorry for interrupting there.
No, I wanted to just share that exactly what happened this one time when um, for this space, the lady who was providing us with that sculpture, that this was her final piece. Um, it was over here, and I switched it off for those of you who are wondering where the planet went. Um, the thing is that she provided her artwork probably half an hour before the exhibition, and it was so heavy, it was so heavy that it was making the entire space heavy. But by that time, there was nothing to be done for her to optimize it because she was still a beginner in Blender. So
Mm.
uh, that's exactly following what Michael said, that it gets hectic around the final days. So don't wait around for the final times. And yeah, yeah. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Michael.
Yeah, so if there's any kind of artwork in here, like also the last one, so that was a big deal. This sculpture, and it was a shame that that it happened that way, because some people couldn't actually get into the space because of the internet connection was um, good enough to go into the space, but it wasn't good enough to download that asset, which was like, I don't know, over a gig or more or something crazy like that.
Hmm.
When it should be in between uh, 4 MB to like 50 at the absolute most, but this was like a gig or something crazy like that.
Yeah. So yeah, give yourself plenty of time for artwork development, and we still have plenty of time before the actual exhibition. However, do have it in mind that afterwards, once we start loading things up over here, they have to be sort of optimized, as Michael said, so that they can be viewable. Otherwise, people will not be able to view your wonderful artwork. If it's huge, it's just going to crash in the space. This is something that happened with one of the ladies in the previous cohort. The video that she provided was sort of huge. It was something like 300 megabytes, and she tried to make it to optimize it and to make it smaller, but it would just crash the quality, and it was done literally in the last day before the exhibition. So the exhibition was at 6 p.m., and at 4 p.m. she was still playing around with it. So we know that this happens. We are also it happens to us as well. So it's usual, it's regular, but I think it's somewhat a good artist practice to think in advance about things. So I don't know. I think that I shouldn't mention that to most of you because most of you here are professionals and are used to deadlines and building artworks and building exhibition spaces. However, just to mention, the metaverse works in mysterious ways and it crashes ever so often. So we have to have time to explore those crashes. So yeah, what's next, Michael? What would you say we should say next?
It was, but they were very disappointed and angry in the end because they didn't see their work um, was presented the way they originally wanted it to. And I would say that that is having too many expectations for the space. The space is like it's a web-based 3D game engine, and it's very hard to work out how everything can go in there. So you can't have you're not putting your work on the screen in a gallery where like you can make it as large as you want. It's not even like when you're minting something when it's when it can be like heavier. When you're minting something, it's being indexed and that's in a separate place. But here, everything has to be working at the same time. And if it doesn't work out, all I just want to say is don't be stressed and angry if you have to make compromises, because in the end, when people are looking at you working here, it's supposed to be like a fun, celebratory thing. And when people are looking at your work here, they're usually clicking on links to move outside of the space anyway. So yeah, just bear that in mind. If you're disappointed by something, try and work out try and look at it in the respect of, it's actually a celebration rather than like this is the last exhibition you're going to have and everything needs to be perfect. It's yeah, it's better for the mood of everything, and it's better for your own experience as well, I would say. Would you agree with that, Boria?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
I think we didn't have issue with that in our second cohort space because the space itself was built as a party, and we just looked at it as a party.
No, we
There,
did have issues with that, Boria, but I'm not going to
yeah,
go into that. But there was one or two people who had a big problem with certain things, but that
yeah,
was all like, but like to not to be respectful for like people's privacy, like I'm not going to mention anyone who was involved in that, but in every one that we've been involved in, there's been like only a very select amount of people that have had a big problem. Some people have other issues and everything, but when I look back in it and I think to myself, like if only they would just, yeah, not be so like not be so hung up on it, they would just relax a little bit because it is supposed to be a fun thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a celebration. There is so in that regard, I would love to share with you guys that if you are interested in being part of the building process in any way, as Michael said, it can be a very tiny amount of thing. You can just provide assistance with whatever you can do, or if you wish to be a builder, or if you have some 3D building skills already, if you're interested in that, that would be amazing because the building process itself is a lot of fun. Michael touched a little bit upon it when we were in the second cohort space, but it's very exciting to to come at 2 a.m. In the space and to see another person moving around and working on stuff. And as I mentioned, this microphone thing in the Arium spaces, you can actually speak to each other, and you're doing things in real time, and you're helping each other build things, and it's a lot of fun. And it doesn't need to be at 2 a.m., mind you. I know that some people don't like not sleeping, which is probably the human thing, honestly. But but it's an experience for sure, and it does give you a better understanding of what the metaverse was intended to be, like extension of ourselves, extension of our real life, a place where we can meet and communicate in regards to different things and also create together. So this is my absolute formal and official invitation
Mhm.
for all of you. If you're interested in building the space, just let me know, and yeah, and I'll set you up. We will have to start building it at latest next week, because as we mentioned, time just flies when you start building it. So
The next
next
week
week,
already. Wow.
yep. We
Wow.
decided for this time, Nicole and I communicated about it and decided that this time we're going to start a little earlier so that we can at least try to avoid the messiness of last minute changes.
Some things you can't avoid though, right? Because
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like we were just talking earlier on today about this similar things. Like, I think artists and creative people they usually like to leave things to the last moment anyway, but mostly because you try and utilize the time you have. So if you have more time, then you kind of use it a different way. If you have less time, use it a different way. But and surprises happen along the way as well, right? But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
uh,
guess so.
so do you guys do you already know the theme? I'm sure you won't say it right now, but is there an idea about what it is?
No idea really. No idea whatsoever. So that's another invite for you guys. Even if you don't wish to be building the space, maybe you could come and brainstorm about what you would like the space to look like. It's very interesting to see how every cohort kind of goes into the space with very similar very similar desires towards it. Like for our space, everyone was kind of on board with the um, Burning Man theme, and
Hmm.
so it's I like to think of it as exploration of the common consciousness that we share, that we just get to the same place because we've been experiencing the same thing for a while. And that could be a very interesting thing to see what you guys want to do. And it's always different. I mean, you don't have to follow what we don't have to follow what we've done before. In fact, if we change it to something else, that's even better. So it's actually not, we're not limited by anything apart from having to have an optimized space.
And all four of them so far have all been like very different from each other, and I love all four of them for their own specific reasons. All four shows. The first one we weren't involved
Yeah.
in. The other three were. Yeah, it's just so much fun. The last one, especially, like I was more like there to just like help out a lot of things. I didn't really like. I wasn't in the front seat. I was like more of a back seat, and what the people in the cohort did it was just great, and it's just wonderful to watch, see how people come together to collaborate and everything. Yeah. But
Well,
this has been quite long, right? This has been like a couple hours. I've got to make my daughter some dinner, I think.
yeah, I think we're about almost 15 minutes over the usual times, and 15 minutes from now the Utopia exhibition is starting, and I'm beyond excited about this. Even though I'm not going to go there physically,
Oh,
I'm
wonderful.
still excited.
Where's your work minted?
It's on object, but it's going to be presented via the VCA auction house, and
Send us a link.
yeah, I will. Should I? I'm so bad at promotion. I'm like the worst person in this.
Well, you're just shilling to like your class right now, so I don't know if you're that bad. Joking. Well, thank you guys for all of your attention today. Like for the people who are still here and the people who had to leave. Like um, it's been like for me and Boria, like we both started off in the residency ourselves, like on cohort 2. We've also made a lot of digital shows together since then, like with VC and everything. And I just want to say, yeah, like it's a wonderful experience, and to keep on being able to contribute and to communicate with new cohort members. A few of you I know already, and a few I don't. And hopefully we get to know each other a little bit better while we're building the space. So thanks for your attention, and yeah, thank you, Boria, as per usual, and good luck with the show tonight. And I'll see you guys next week, I guess.
Thank you, Michael, for another amazing class. These are some of my favorites, and I can't wait to see what this cohort is going to create as a metaverse space. And see you at the party. See you at the party. I don't know what else to say. Thanks for listening into everything, and don't hesitate to drop us questions if there is anything you want to have elaborated on. And yeah, have fun with the metaverse.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Michael.
Yes. Good night.